Opens with a great question. How or has the role of parenting changed in the last 20 years? And you can see from the different people interviewed in that clip that there are different opinions out there. There are some different responses that were given. And I guess my question for you would be, whether you're a parent or not, how many of you would say that the role of parenting has changed in the last 20 years? Raise your hands. All right, I can see almost every hand is raised. Here's maybe a better question, one that I'm more interested in. How many of you would say that the role of parenting has changed more in the last 20 years, so from 1989 until today, than in the 20 that preceded it, so from 1969 to 1988? How many of you think that parenting has changed more drastically in the last 20 years? Raise your hands. Okay, again, I think all the hands are up, and I'd have to agree. My wife Barb and I this week, Melissa mentioned, you talk when you have a message and you're reflecting on parenting, and if you're a parent, you're going to talk about this stuff Monday through Saturday as well. And Barb and I were reflecting on our parenting and our childhood experience compared to our son Eric and our daughter Alika, and their experience growing up in our home. And it's a little scary, because from my perspective, it wasn't so long ago that I was a kid. But things have changed a lot. Barb said, for instance, that when she was a kid, on Saturday morning, she'd get up without telling her parents. She'd go out and she'd hop on her bike and she'd join up with the neighborhood kids, and they'd be gone all day. They'd have lunch at each other's homes, and they wouldn't call mom to say, I'm at Susie's house or whatever. As long as she was home by the time the street lights came on at night, that was her curfew. As long as she was home by the time the street lights came on, her parents didn't worry. I think things have changed. When I was a kid, some of you know this, I grew up in Barrie until I was finished my 13th year. And in the summertime, we lived about 4 blocks from Johnson's Beach in Barrie. And my buddy Dan and I would tell my parents we were going to the beach, and most days we would go to the beach, we would walk to the beach along the railway tracks, and we would hang out at the beach all day without, today they talk about kids being within arm's reach, right? Don't let your kids swim unless they're in arm's reach. We weren't even within earshot, all right? And we were there all day, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a parent today who would let a 12-year-old kid walk down the beach along the train tracks, hang out at the beach all day where there was a concession stand, and maybe the bullies would, rob your kid and take their money, or maybe someone would have an accident swimming, or heaven forbid, maybe someone would abduct your child. I think things have changed drastically. Eric and Alika are 12 and 11 respectively. Eric turns 13 this Friday, I believe it is, but he's still not a teenager. And they've got their own notebook computers. Both of them, with their own money, bought their own computers. I didn't even own my first computer till I was in university. All right? So there's a big change right there. They're not even teenagers yet, and we've had to have conversations with them about Facebook and about MSN chat rooms, about filtering systems on the computer, about the danger of opening emails from addresses that you don't recognize, about internet porn. And now they're asking for cell phones. And if I'm speaking to you this morning and you're less than 20 years old, you're probably thinking, this guy's a dinosaur. And I don't care. I heard my best old person joke last night. I was at a party. You guys want to hear it?
Yeah. Sure. Absolutely.
All right. You're so old. When you were young, the Dead Sea was still only sick. I thought that was great. Anyway, where was I? One more comparison. I played my first video game when I was 6 years old. It was a really exciting game called Pong. All right? Look at those graphics, though.
That's a great game.
Oh, and we thought that was exciting. My parents bought me my first video game system, the Atari 2600, when I was 11 years old. How many of you had one of these? Okay, we're bringing back some memories here. My favorite game was Asteroids, okay? You had this little thing that was in the middle of the screen, and these rocks, these asteroids would come at you from all different directions, and you had to blast them away. I like that one. And then there was another game that came with it, Centipede. I hated that game. The music drove me nuts. I couldn't play it. When my parents bought me the Atari, they didn't have to worry about videos rated T for teen, let alone M for mature, or A for adult only. In fact, the Entertainment Software Rating Board didn't even come into existence until 1994, which was more than a decade later. There was no need with asteroids to have this. Today's video games are so advanced, they're practically lifelike. In fact, I would say that some video games today are as addictive as many illicit drugs. This past Thanksgiving Day, Brandon Crisp ran away from home after his parents prohibited him from playing a video game called Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. After several hours, when Brandon didn't return, his parents started getting worried. They thought that after he cooled off, he would come home. This is a holiday, Thanksgiving Day. Several hours quickly turned into several days. News of Brandon's disappearance brought to light the secret fears that many parents around the globe have and harbor over their children's video gaming habits. Even as rescue teams searched for Brandon's body, many speculated the worst, that he had been abducted by someone that he met while gaming online. Finally, after a month-long search, Brandon's body was found just a few kilometers from home. His death was attributed to a combination of exposure to elements and injuries he sustained as a result of falling out of a tree. Experts believe he was playing Call of Duty in a tree about 2 kilometers from home. Parenting has changed a lot in the last 20 years. And I don't know if you like comic strips, but one of my favorites is Calvin and Hobbes. And here's a clip that I think says more in one sentence than I could say speaking for the next 10 minutes. How do I know you guys aren't screwing me up? Now, I don't know, when I was a kid that size, if I would have dared to say that to my mom, let alone my dad, even if I thought it. But now, I think there are kids that would not just say that in a sarcastic sort of way. I think there are kids that honestly wonder if their parents are screwing them up. Parenting has changed. I think you could say where parenting is concerned, it's a whole new game. Played on a different field, with different rules in many ways. That's the bad news. But the good news is that amidst all of this change, some things haven't changed. For instance, the words your kids need to hear. And that's why you're here this morning, because we're exploring together several words that kids need to hear. These are the big ones. These are the things that really, I don't think, change or should change, regardless of whether you're raising your kids in 1970 or 2009. According to God's Word in the Bible, our words have the power to build up or to destroy. And if this is true across the board, generally, I think it's doubly true when it comes to the words that we use to speak to children. And last week we discovered 2 valuable words as part of this series, the introductory words. Number 1, kids need to hear, I believe in you. I believe in you. And then second, you can count on me. I believe in you, and you can count on me. This week I'm going to share 2 more valuable phrases that parents should share with their children, and those of us who are adults who maybe don't have kids can share with grandchildren or nieces or nephews or with the people that we educate or serve with at River City or in our neighborhood and so forth. But instead of coming from the front door, I'm going to come in from the back door by illustrating what can happen when kids don't hear these important words. There once lived a man who had 13 children. Probably not in the last 20 years, right? There once lived a man who had 13 children from 4 wives. And of the 13 children, more specifically 12 were sons, and 1 was a daughter. Duh, right? And I give you their names, but you're not going to remember them. So that's not important. Besides, where this story is concerned, only one name really matters. Why? Because this is the favored child. I'm going to